right, cool. So the first thing I want to start off with is this is something we've been watching quite a bit is the open short interest in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if we take a look at what we discussed last week, what we kind of talked about was, hey, here's the Bitcoin shorts. We think they're going to come and rise and test these highs right here. So here's a high, here's a high. We think this was a bullish sign, and we thought it was going to rise higher. Well, look what's happened here. So this is kind of that move we are looking at, and it has grinded higher. And right now, Bitcoin short, open short interest. Again, this is traded inversely with Bitcoin spot price. Looks like we're going to come up here to this magenta line. A triple top is not a strong pattern whatsoever technically. So one or two things are going to happen. This thing is either going to roll over, right, and we're not going to breach this high right here, or it's going to keep grinding, and it's going to be what we call a break trade. So it's going to these are two continuous highs. We're going to break this magenta line, and then that could really accelerate things to the top side. And so this is a 4-hour chart. If we roll this out a little bit to a daily, you can kind of see that if we break topside, there's not too much to go. There's this other high right around here, around 41,000. We may pop there. It might be a false breakout. So this is something I'm watching really, really closely, is this Bitcoin open short interest. And it kind of goes along. I'm bearish right now. And if we take a look at Bitcoin, so if we think about open short interest, what does that mean? More people are betting short on a Bitcoin dollar to go down in price. And if you see what we have in here is we've tested this 3,500 level, this 3,600 level, and we've kind of started to consolidate a little bit. Again, I think we're somewhat in a bearish flag. And again, this 4,500 is decent resistance to the top side. And then we also have the 6,000 to 6,200 level is resistance. What's going to happen, in my opinion, is this 3,600 level is going to break, and we're going to go down to that 3,000 to 3,200 level that we've been watching and talking about for the last 6 months. And again, the reason we like 3,000 is back in June and late July, that was the breakout. That's where the initial Bitcoin move started from, was that 3,000 area. Now, that being said, if 3,000 cracks, we're going to come back down to roughly 18 to 1,700, which is the July lows of 2017. But I think we're going to find strong support here around this 3,000, 3,200. That's where I'm a buyer. I'm looking for Bitcoin to range trade here between this 5,000 and 3,200 mark for the next month, at least, maybe 2 months. And then from there, we'll probably move up, forming a bull flag pattern where we trade at between 5,000 and 6,200, forming a base and real strong support. So that's what I'm seeing in Bitcoin, and that's what the Bitcoin short contracts are telling me. Now, if we take a look at a little bit of everything else that we've been watching, so this is BAT, and something we talked about on the last video was these support lines getting broken. And kind of what we saw was we've run down these lows, roughly 12.5 cents, and we've come all the way back. And that's something we talked about a lot, guys, was we're going to bounce off these lows and then continue downward. So we bounced off this 12.5 cents, came back to this resistance level around 19, 20 cents. And now we're stuck in this range. And what I believe is going to happen is if you look at this teal line here, is we should be trading somewhere around the 10-cent range in the next month or two. This bottom support level, I think this is major support. And if you think about it, we may be forming a double bottom here. So what do I mean when I say double bottom is you have the first part of the bottom right here, right? And so that's the left side of the W. And then we'd have the second bottom right here. And that's a very strong technical pattern. And that's kind of what may happen here. And then we would range trade right in this area. And then the double bottom will be confirmed if that held, right? The middle of the W is big support. And then that's kind of the price action I'm looking for. And this is pretty synonymous with the rest of the cryptocurrency market. We're seeing a lot of very similar patterns across the board. Let's talk about, again, we just talked about Bitcoin. Let's talk about Civic real quick. So Civic, very similar scenario. We had this support down here at roughly 5 cents. We've kind of bounced off of that a little bit, and what we're seeing is we're seeing some resistance right here around 8 cents. Civic's a tough one. It's a relatively new coin. It hasn't been trading a long time, so it's hard. There's not a lot of supports down here. Quite honestly, this is something I'm staying away from. I mean, we could go as low as like 3 or 2.5 cents to form that double bottom. So this is just something on my radar. Again, not taking a lot of risk right now. I'm pretty much flat, sitting on the sidelines, own a couple of things. But for the most part, this is kind of a wait and see market. I think we're going to see that flush to the downside, and I'm trying to be extremely patient and disciplined and wait for good prices. Dash. Yeah, this is something that we've been watching very closely all over the summer. I remember, Nick, I know we both talked about Dash, and we kind of watched this 200 level break, and it's crazy to see it all the way down here at roughly $85. When you got started back in was it May and June, the thing was trading 260, 225. So that's pretty wild. To the downside, again, we're finding some support around this $82 level. We'll see if that holds. I think 50-60 is going to be strong support here, and then topside resistance you're looking at 120 to 135. And me personally, I'd be selling any rally, looking to rebuy at lower prices. So if you are going to take some risk, what's nice about it these levels is you can buy it here and only risk a couple dollars, looking for a return to the middle of this range, and then sell the pop. That's probably the best way to approach Dash right now, because your risk is really well defined since we had these lows in here roughly $82. Ethereum's been really interesting to me lately. Let's take a step and look at actually the Ethereum Bitcoin cross. This is something that I've been watching closely for the last 6 or 7 months. And if you look here, we had this 0.27 level that held, and now we're retesting it, right? So we're retesting it right now, and it looks to me like it wants to make a run to this 0.24 level. And so what does that mean? That means the Ethereum Bitcoin cross may be finding some support, and this may be a signal of a pivot point for strength in Ethereum. Something I'm watching very closely. I do believe this 27 level is going to break, and we're going to go those 24s. So then what does that mean for the Ethereum US dollar cross, right? That's the next question. Well, we have a couple supports. This $100 level is a huge psychological level. Again, that was a big break last year. You can kind of see this $100 level was where the move really started to accelerate. Prior to that $100 move, the move from roughly $20 right down in here up to 50 to 100, we had a couple little stops along the way. So 80 was a big psychological level along with $50 to $60. So right now, what I believe is going to happen in Ethereum is we'll probably see a move down to this 80 level. I think this is strong support right here. Pair that with the Ethereum Bitcoin cross, and I think you can make a decent argument of why you want to own some Ethereum, probably $20 cheaper to $30 cheaper. And I'd be a seller of any rallies up to 135. I mean, on the top side resistance, you got 135 to 165, and again 200. So I'm very bearish Ethereum. This thing is still going to roll over. There's a lot of downward pressure on the market right now. And it just seems like volume is down over the last week or so. We've seen record low volumes, and in terms of market cap is down. Now, Golem is very interesting. Golem's one that I've been watching very closely. This is actually the only long position that we're in. So we talked about last week and the week before buying it at roughly 8.5 cents. I did buy it at 8.5 cents. My stop is 6 cents in Golem. And we were able to take some profit up here on this 11 and 12 cents. The only problem is it's relatively thinly traded, so you have to be very careful when you trade this. But to me, it can go lower here, but you have your defined risk at roughly 7.5 cents. And I'd be a seller anywhere against this resistance line up here to the top side. So kind of looking for us to kind of be in this 11 to 12 cent range, a nice little risk reward trade. It's in a bear market, this is probably one of your better trades. Litecoin, the correlation with Litecoin and Bitcoin right now is roughly 85%. So again, this is probably going to do mirror Bitcoin very closely. And you can kind of see what we talked about last week, because we expected a sideways move and then now a continuation to the downside. And I firmly believe that we're going to test that $20 mark, and that coincides with roughly 3,000 to 3,200 in Bitcoin US dollars. And then we'll see hopefully that double bottom pattern, and we'll start getting bullish, and we'll make some runs back up to 35 and 48. So next up we have Neo. This is the Chinese Ethereum. Again, trading these channels that we've been kind of watching. We've broken down below this 885 mark, and this 650 mark has held support, so that's pretty strong. Again, I'm not a buyer until we get in the 650 to 450 range here, and I'm looking to buy around $5 or $6, looking to take some profit around $10 and expect this to kind of chop all the way up, kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. Now, this is something we've been watching really close. Again, here's actually the double bottom drawn out that I'm looking for. And you can kind of see we've kind of made this kind of wave, and I'm looking for this to kind of consolidate a leak down here to roughly 4.5 cents, and then we'll see a nice little rally to the upside, roughly 8 cents, all the way up to 15 cents was the high right here. And if you think about it, back in January, this thing was trading 209. So in terms of risk reward, I really like NEM. I think it's probably one of the better projects out there. It's really been a dog this year, but something I really like. I'm watching it very closely. Stellar's been really interesting to me. So Stellar has been holding its own actually against Bitcoin. And this is something we talked about in the market primer was Stellar's outperforming pretty much most of the other altcoins relative to Bitcoin, even though Stellar dollar cross has been getting hit. So what does that mean? I believe that's a show of relative strength. That tells me that individuals want to own Stellar and they don't really care about the fiat price. Again, this thing, it's crazy to see how, this market's trading purely technically. Like this support line is now resistance. You can kind of see we came all the way down to kind of these wicks over here. This is kind of where we got these levels, right? We bounced all the way back to the 17 cents, and now we're coming back down. So Stellar, I really like it around 10 cents. I mean, we originally owned it at 2.5 cents last year. I remember it broke out at 4.5, and then 7 cents is a big level. So I'm a buyer anywhere between 10 and 7 cents, or 7 to 10 cents. Looking for this thing even to get back to the 20s. But Stellar's another one just like NEM. I mean, this thing was trading, what was it trading? Roughly $1. Yeah, at the highs, maybe more than that. Not saying it can get there, who knows? But on a relative basis, I think Stellar's cheap, and because it's trading at a premium compared to the others at Bitcoin, I think there's relative value here. If you're interested in Stellar, it's probably a decent time to take a serious look at purchasing it. And again, you could pick your price. Rather, I'd say anywhere between 13 cents and 7 cents is a decent place to kind of enter the trade. So then we have Monero. Monero, another one that's just very technically weak. And what I was really surprised with Monero was we did not see the bounce. So we came off here and look how weak this bounce was. We couldn't even get to these highs, and now we're moving back to the downside. We tested really weak bounce during the session today, and to me, this is very weak. Technically, this thing looks like it's going all the way back down to $35 before we see any kind of strength, maybe even $20. It's crazy to me to see Monero trading this cheaply, but technically it's just setting up very, very weak. Now you can say that, the moves to the downside aren't as exaggerated, but still, look, we're consistently putting in lower highs, every single day. So again, I'm going to wait on Monero, kind of wait to see some strength before I'm even a buyer. Because you could buy it at 35s, but then it could easily go down to $20 or $25. So something I'm watching closely. I do like Monero, but I hate the way this thing is setting up technically. So I'm just going to try and be patient and wait on the sidelines with Monero.